Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to Movies and Junk. Today we're gonna be breaking the first two rules of Fight Club. That's right, we're gonna talk about it. If there is one movie that defined the angst of the late 90s, it has to be David Fincher's 1999 masterpiece. It's a film that, much like American Psycho, was largely misunderstood by critics upon its initial release, but has since clawed its way up from the underground to become one of the most celebrated cult classics in cinema history. The way it tackles themes of masculinity, consumerism, and the fragile nature of reality is something that still resonates, maybe even more so today. I guess that explains why Tyler Durden is still plastered all over the internet as the patron saint of rebellion. Along with it, of course, being one of the most visually inventive films of its genre. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Here are 20 facts you didn't know about Fight Club. One of the most pervasive themes in the movie is the critique of corporate consumer culture, specifically the idea that we are obsessed with branding. David Fincher wanted to hammer this point home in a very subliminal way. If you look closely, there is apparently a Starbucks cup hidden in almost every scene of the movie. Fincher has claimed that he didn't have anything personal against Starbucks, but rather that they were just the perfect symbol for the homogenization of culture. He likened it to the fact that in the late 90s, you couldn't walk down a city block without seeing one of those green mermaids staring back at you. Interestingly, while Starbucks was cool with their cups being everywhere, there was one scene they refused to be a part of. When the corporate art sphere comes crashing down into the coffee shop near the end of the film, Starbucks banned their logo from being destroyed. So, if you look at the cup rolling on the ground in that specific shot, it's a generic fictional brand, not a Starbucks one. Can't crush the mermaid. Out of the question. Speaking of crushing things, let's talk about the scene where the narrator learns how to fight. In the script, Edward Norton was supposed to fake punch Brad Pitt in the shoulder, a nice, safe Hollywood stage punch. However, right before the cameras rolled, director David Fincher pulled Norton aside and whispered, "Hit him, like really hit him, and hit him in the ear." Norton, being the method actor he is, obliged. So when you see Brad Pitt shouting, "Mother," hit me in the ear, that is 100% real pain and genuine surprise. You have to wonder what went through Pitt's head in that moment. Probably something like, "Note to self, get the director fired." But Brad Pitt was no stranger to making sacrifices for this role. Much like Christian Bale's dedication to getting his teeth capped for American Psycho, Brad Pitt took a trip to the dentist before filming started. But instead of fixing his smile, he paid to have it ruined. Pitt voluntarily went to a dentist to have pieces of his front teeth chipped off to make Tyler Durden look more rugged and like a guy who actually gets punched in the face for fun. Talk about dedication to his craft. Of course, as soon as filming wrapped, he went right back and had them capped and fixed perfectly. But for those few months, that jagged smile was the real deal. It wasn't just the teeth, though. Both Pitt and Norton undertook some serious physical preparation, but they went in opposite directions. Edward Norton had just come off filming American History X, where he played a neo-Nazi skinhead and was absolutely shredded. To play the narrator, a weak, insomnia-riddled office drone, he had to starve himself and stop lifting weights entirely to shed nearly 20 pounds of muscle. On the flip side, Brad Pitt needed to achieve that lean, wiry, cut-from-stone look. He didn't want to be big like a bodybuilder, he wanted to look like a guy who burned calories just by existing. They also took soap-making classes from a chaotic boutique company called Anti-Godmother and spent weeks taking lessons in boxing, taekwondo, and grappling. We mentioned earlier that the studio had some issues with branding, but that was nothing compared to the war over the dialogue. There is a famous scene where Marla Singer, played by the incredible Helena Bonham Carter, has just finished enjoying herself with Tyler. In the original script, and in the book, the line she delivers while lying in bed was, "I want to have your abortion." Laura Ziskin, the producer from Fox 2000, absolutely lost it. She told Fincher there was no way in hell that line was making it into the movie. It was just too offensive. Fincher agreed to change it on one condition. Whatever new line he wrote, Ziskin wasn't allowed to cut it. She agreed, thinking nothing could be worse than the abortion line. So, Fincher had Marla say,
"My God, I haven't been fucked like that since grade school."
For those not from the States, grade schoolers are typically aged between 5 and 11. When Ziskin heard the new line at a screening, she visibly cringed and begged Fincher to put the abortion line back in. But a deal's a deal, and the grade school line stayed. I think it's safe to say Fincher won that round. One of the coolest Easter eggs in the film happens before we even properly meet Tyler Durden. Because Tyler is a projection of the narrator's mind, Fincher inserts him into the movie via single-frame flashes, literally 1/24th of a second before his actual introduction on the plane. You can see him standing by the photocopier at the office, in the hallway at the doctor's office, during the testicular cancer support group, and walking behind the narrator outside. It's the film's way of showing the narrator's psyche fracturing in real time. It's subtle, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And speaking of seeing things, let's talk about the cave scene. There is a moment where Marla and the narrator are in a metaphysical ice cave, and you can see their breath condensing in the air. This wasn't practical effects, it was actually Leonardo DiCaprio's breath. Well, sort of. The visual effects team reused the composite breath vapor shots taken from the movie Titanic, specifically from the scene where Jack is freezing in the water, and composited it into Fight Club. So in a weird 6 degrees of separation way, Jack Dawson is in Fight Club. Before the movie was even released, Rosie O'Donnell attended an early screening. She hated the film so much, citing its violence and nihilism, that she went on her national talk show the very next day and spoiled the ending. She literally told millions of housewives, "He's split in two, he's the same person, don't waste your money." I can't even imagine the level of rage the studio must have felt. It's one of the biggest dick moves in Hollywood history. Who knows if that actually hurt the box office, though the movie did underperform initially. Another interesting tidbit involves the makeup for Marla Singer. Helena Bonham Carter wanted Marla to look like she just didn't care. She told the makeup artist, Julie Pierce, that Marla wasn't the type of woman who was good at applying cosmetics. So, to achieve that messy, chaotic, heroin chic look, the makeup artist applied all of Helena's eye makeup with her left hand. It explains why it looks so smudgy and imprecise. It's a small detail, but it adds so much character to her look. Now, let's talk about Meatloaf, who played Robert Paulson.
His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson.
To play the character of Bob, the man with bitch tits caused by steroid abuse, Meatloaf had to wear a massive fat suit that weighed over 100 pounds. It was filled with birdseed to give it the proper sagging weight. It was so heavy and hot that he actually had to have an oxygen mask on standby between takes just so he wouldn't pass out from exhaustion. And despite the fact that he was a rock legend, the studio wouldn't let him do his own stunts. In the scene where the narrator tackles him, that's a stunt double. But that creates a seamless transition to the IKEA scene. You know the one, where the narrator is walking through his condo and furniture descriptions and prices are popping up on the screen like a virtual catalog. Fincher revealed that this scene was surprisingly difficult to shoot because he wanted the camera to track perfectly with the 3D text. But the funny part is the deeper meaning. Fincher said he wanted to show that the narrator had become a slave to the IKEA nesting instinct. He essentially filled his apartment with things that defined him, because he had no personality of his own yet. It's almost the exact same theme as Patrick Bateman's obsession with his business cards or his stereo system, just a different font. If you thought the chemistry between Pitt and Norton was just good acting, it was actually fueled by a lot of offset bonding. During the production, they decided they were going to create a food pass. They were constantly hungry because of the physical demands of the role, so they would sneak food onto the set. But more than that, they discovered they both hated the new Volkswagen Beetle. In the scene where Tyler and the narrator are hitting cars with baseball bats, Brad Pitt and Edward Norton specifically requested that one of the cars be a Beetle. Pitt felt the car was a symbol of the 60s youth culture being repackaged and sold back to the generation for a profit. So smashing it was their way of saying screw you to corporate nostalgia bait. There's also a really fascinating connection to the actual author of the book, Chuck Palahniuk. Usually, authors hate the movie adaptations of their work. Stephen King hated The Shining, and Bret Easton Ellis had mixed feelings about American Psycho. But Chuck Palahniuk actually loved the Fight Club movie. In fact, he went on record saying that he was slightly embarrassed because he thought the movie's plot was actually better streamlined than his own book. He specifically praised the ending. In the book, the narrator ends up in a mental institution, which he thinks is heaven. But in the movie, the romantic destruction of the credit card buildings was an ending Palahniuk wished he had thought of himself. Speaking of that ending, let's look at the warning that appears at the very start of the DVD and Blu-ray. Usually, you get that boring FBI warning about piracy that everyone skips. But on the Fight Club disc, there is a flash of a second warning screen written by Tyler Durden. It reads, "If you are reading this, then this warning is for you. Every word you read of this useless fine print is another second off your life. Don't you have other things to do? Is your life so empty that you honestly can't think of a better way to spend these moments?" It goes on to insult the viewer for consuming the media they are about to watch. It is the ultimate meta joke. You are sitting there watching a movie about anti-consumerism, on a product you just bought, reading a warning telling you to stop watching it. Absolute genius. While we are on the topic of details, did you notice that the narrator doesn't actually have a name? In the credits, Edward Norton is listed simply as the narrator. Throughout the film, he uses fake names in the support groups, like Cornelius, Rupert, and Travis. And while many fans refer to him as Jack because of the "I am Jack" smirking revenge monologues, the script never actually names him. This was done to reinforce the idea that he is an everyman, a blank slate that Tyler Durden could easily overwrite. Here's a detail that is kinda gross, but totally fits the vibe of the movie. The scene where Tyler and the narrator are harvesting fat from the liposuction clinic dumpsters to make soap? That fat was actually rendered chicken fat mixed with other gelatinous substances. Apparently, the smell on set was absolutely horrific. So when you see the actors gagging or looking disgusted as they are hauling those bags of slime, they aren't acting. They are genuinely trying not to vomit. One of the most famous images from the movie is the rules of Fight Club.
The first rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
The writer, Chuck Palahniuk, said these rules were inspired by his time participating in the Cacophony Society, a prank group in San Francisco. But he also noted the irony that, by the end of the story, everyone is talking about Fight Club. The rules are made to be broken, which is exactly what Tyler Durden wanted. He wanted the franchise to spread. So the fact that the members broke the first two rules was actually part of the plan all along. Another weird connection involves the phone number Marla Singer writes on the wall, 555-0134. If that number sounds familiar, it's because it's the same fake Hollywood number used in the movie Memento by Christopher Nolan. It was also used in Harriet the Spy. I guess Marla Singer and Leonard Shelby have the same service provider. Finally, we have to talk about the very last frame of the movie. Throughout the film, Tyler splices single frames of pornography into family films at the movie theater where he works as a projectionist. Well, David Fincher decided to pull a Tyler Durden on the audience. At the very end of the movie, just as the Pixies song "Where Is My Mind" cuts out and the credits are about to roll, there is a single frame spliced into the black screen. And yes, it is exactly what you think it is. It's a shot of a male's genitals. It appears for just a fraction of a second, but it's there. It's Fincher's final way of messing with the audience, blurring the line between the movie you watched and the prankster spirit of Tyler Durden. It basically implicates the director as a member of Project Mayhem. So there you have it, 20 facts you may not have known about Fight Club. It's a movie that demands to be watched over and over again, if only to catch all the subtle details and foreshadowing that you missed the first time around. It really is in a class of its own when it comes to visual storytelling. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content just like this. And remember,
you met me at a very strange time in my life.